Hello, welcome back everyone. So nice to see you, except we're not seeing you and we're not hearing you, but you're hearing us. Hello, welcome. So nice to have you here. Eternal loop, kidding. Nice to have you here. Glad you could join us.
There we go.
Are deciding, what'd you say?
I said, there we go. You've finally gotten it right.
Look, woohoo! Success eventually. So today we are talking about moving house because Kristen just had the unenviable opportunity to move house with a toddler, and we're going to talk about it. How was it? Was it as disastrous as it sounds?
No, it was honestly amazing. Like, yes, I'm exhausted. Yes, my body hurts, but my kid did not contribute to any of the stress. She is having a ball at our new house. She's just so happy. Like, her sleep hasn't been affected. Nothing. It's all amazing, and I don't understand why. And I'm touching wood because I don't want that to change. But she loves it. And yeah, I'm just really tired. And I realized on late Sunday night, after we'd been finished moving, that my husband and I have the same toxic trait. And that is that we both like things to be perfect instantaneously. And if we don't, we get real high strung. And I realized this as I had just finished completely organizing the entire kitchen, the entire laundry, the entire linen cupboard, and all bedrooms in the house so that everything is unpacked completely and there's no boxes
on
left.
Day 2 of being in the house.
Exactly. And my husband was out in the yard having just mowed and was doing roundup weed and feed, and was had just done a bunch of Bunnings runs to go and change all the door stops in the house and all this kind of stuff. I realized that we have the same
the kind of things that people take a few weeks and months to settle into. You're like, man, it's happening in the first few days. No rest for the wicked.
I didn't realize, I knew I was like this because I'm so high strung and so anxious, and I need things to feel settled, for me to feel settled. But I've always thought that my husband, well, not anymore, but before we had our kid, I always thought my husband was the chill one. He always balanced me out. He was always really easygoing. When we had my kid, I realized that he's actually way more high strung than I am. But yeah,
high strung than you.
More. He's more. I've become way more chill, and he's become so high strung. I'm just so good at managing my stress now. So I was the anchor this weekend.
How nice for you.
Yeah, me and my mental health are in such a great place. I know. We really flipped roles. But anyways, yeah, so we have a wonderful toxic trait of perfectionism, and that's not healthy. So don't be us. It's okay to have boxes that aren't unpacked for months or years. That's fine.
I think you are onto an accurate statement there. Obviously, this trait, it's not all bad. Clearly, it has to have some adaptive functions. Otherwise, you wouldn't have it, and it wouldn't have lasted as long as it has. So let's thank the trait for what it's been able to give us, whilst recognizing...
If we're talking evolution and whether perfectionism is really an adapted trait, I just want to remind you that things like spandrels exist. And that's things that seem to persist regardless of the fact that they serve no functional purpose to humans. And I feel like anxiety in the extreme form isn't that adaptive, and definitely not perfectionism. And if you don't know what a spandrel is, you know how there's
Googling it as we
indoors?
Yeah.
The curved archways, yes, it's it's pretty, and it's a trend that people love to have, but there's that little piece of wood that makes it curved. Yeah, but it's not functional. There's no purpose to it. So
I feel
like
aesthetic. It makes our heart happy.
Exactly.
A spandrel, not anxiety.
Yes, perfectionism is a spandrel of evolution. Because there's no functional purpose to it. It's just there to look pretty.
I don't agree with you. It is helpful. It's helpful in small bits because obviously getting things right. So when we think of the human race, there's people who need to get specific things, detail-oriented people who are
this is true.
Crazy,
okay.
intense.
You make a great point.
Thank you. I know I'm clever. As I was telling my 5-year-old nephew, who kept saying, "How do you know? How do you know?" Clever.
Obviously.
Obviously. But yeah, but obviously, and like the great thing about evolution is you only need to be 15 and have a baby and then die. Like evolution doesn't need you to live a long, happy, healthy life. You just need to procreate and then we're done with you.
And look, at 15, I probably could have gotten pregnant and had a baby and like not even realized that I had extreme anxiety because I probably wouldn't have lived until 28. So this is true.
Exactly.
This took a bleak turn.
Quite. Okay, let's dial it back and wander.
Let's go back to moving children.
The topic at hand, which we have one this time, which is nice, which is moving house.
Yeah.
So I moved house a little over a year ago. So fun fact, we have moved house every 1 to 2 years for the last 12 years.
That is exhausting.
Sucks. Why? Not intentionally. Like this is not something we enjoy. We're not free spirits. In fact, we're total homebodies, so it's counterproductive. But for lots of different reasons, that's how we've ended up. So we're still renting because banks and the tax department doesn't like us.
Yeah.
Because we changed countries, and then banks are like, you need X number of years of living in the same country for anyway, whatever. Let's not bore people with financial histories.
Yeah.
We have the money to buy a house. No one will lend us money for a mortgage yet. But soon,
you don't want to
hopefully.
go through that. Mortgage brokers are amazing. Like they're great, but like banks, not so great. Not so great.
Yeah, but I don't want to move house every 1 to 2 years for another 12 years. I want to just stay in a spot.
And given how the real estate market's going, I feel like the owner of your house is probably going to sell it out from under you because it's going to be worth 5 times what they bought it for. And they only bought it 3 years ago. So you may have to move sooner.
Who knows? Actually, our landlord, tangent, let's jump right back, but bought the house in like the 70s or something.
Holy
He's such a nice old man. He's really lovely. Anyway.
That is some capital gains tax right there.
Oh, I know, right? Anyway, so moving house. We moved house about a year ago, and I wrote a post all about it. So I have some actual evidence to talk about. So we can, I know for a fact already because I know where you were living and where you are living, how a lot of these things you've already addressed, which is great. But basically, I will share some of the research that we know that helps children adjust in the transition to a new home, and then you can share with us what you did or didn't do and how that worked for your little lady.
In excruciating detail.
Sounds perfect. That's what this is all about. So the research tends to agree that for children in general, relocation and moving house can be challenging for little people, and that they can find it, the adjustment and the change confronting. This is depending on where you've moved to and from. It can be in part due to the loss of control, the loss of a sense of home, and maybe adjusting to a new daycare environment, adjusting to a new social network. So I know that you moved quite close to where you were before. So Sienna's still at the same daycare?
Yeah, not that that's a good thing. It is now 20 minutes south, and then I go 20 minutes north to get to work. So it's tricky, but we're getting there.
Complicated round trip.
We'll talk about that soon.
Sure, yeah. How long, well, let's talk about it now. How long was the travel beforehand?
About 8 minutes.
Okay, 8-minute drive, and
so
now
it was already
drive.
Yeah, we were already driving out of our way to go to this kindy because it was the kindy that her cousin went to, and when I introduced her to kindy, I wanted a smooth transition, and I wanted people that I could trust because I was at the height of my postnatal anxiety. So I didn't have the capacity to go and vet a bunch of kindies, and my niece had been at that kindy for like 4 years, and they had loved it, and she was cared for by everyone. So I just kind of shoved Sienna in that kindy because I knew it was trustworthy, and you know they let my niece like visit Sienna throughout the day. Yeah, so sweet, and like we love that kindy. So I'll talk about like navigating kindy and stuff later in the episode, I think, because there's a lot more to it. But for now, we have made the decision that it is going to be a longer drive and more inconvenient, but for us right now, that's not a thing we want to change because we've made a lot of big changes for her.
Totally. So, and that's kind of one of the things that the research shows is that where you can, and obviously it's not always possible, where you can, minimizing the number of changes at any one time. So whether that means if you are having to move further away and therefore change interstate or whatever, interstate, that example doesn't work. But if you're having to move further and change daycares or daycares, sorry.
Yeah.
I'll calm on down and then I'll get my thoughts out and explain what's going on inside this head of mine. This happens all the time in our actual conversations with Kristen.
Yes.
I'll be like, wait, I'll tell you what I'm thinking before I can tell you all the reasons it's wrong. So, pause, Siobhan, breathe. One of the things that you can do if you do have to move and change kindies or daycares is to either start the new daycare earlier. So even before you've moved, start the new daycare a bit earlier so that when it comes to moving house, you're not having both change of daycare, both change of kindi and house. Obviously, that's not always possible, but that could be something that could ease the transition. Another thing is to visit the house with your little one and have them experience the house before all of their things are in it and before they've had to say goodbye to their old place. Is that something you were able to do with Sienna?
It was, yes. I have a whole set of steps for what I did. And I promise you we will talk about them in excruciating detail, but I want you to get through the science first and then we can kind of reflect on it.
Do it all in one. Sounds perfect. So and then tied into that, if you're able to do this, like taking a few toys over each time so that your little one can kind of get a sense that their old toys now live at the toys they've already taken now live there, and that they'll add toys each time. And obviously for little ones, their toys can be a real sense of self and identity. So there's my cat running past. So that can be a really good way to do that. In an ideal world, the research shows that setting up the bedroom furniture in the same way is really helpful. So if the bed was against one side of the wall or it was near the window, try to replicate that. Obviously, that depends on the setup of your house and the geography and kind of architecture of it all. One thing that's really relevant is trying to avoid, which ties into before, making multiple changes at once. So if you're moving house, try not to also add toilet training at the same time or changing bed at the same time. So just try to minimize change where you can. And then on the day of the move, try to have someone to help you with the little one. So whether that's like a mother-in-law or your dad or even a babysitter, or you be that person and have movers move the stuff. So someone to be like someone to be with the kid who's on point for child, comforting, caring, playing, so that the kid doesn't feel like they're just another piece of furniture that's being moved about. So that's the main things. And then communication, obviously, particularly for older children, explaining to them what's happening, why it's happening, and keeping them involved in the process as things happen.
Yeah. So this is exactly what we did. So I'll step through everything that we did, and I will, I'm going to start early. So everything that I do in my parenting journey is with the goal of involving her, because I know that toddlers, young children, don't have that much control. They feel really left out. It feels like they're careening out of they're just being manipulated every which way, right? So giving them some of that sense of control, that sense of involvement can really help navigate these things. So when we started looking at houses, like open homes were on Saturdays, and we would tell her what we were doing, and we would take her to the first few open homes. We didn't take her every time, because as you start doing open homes on weekends, you end up doing 16 homes across the entire city, really quickly, and kids hate that. So we took her to a few when we were just starting out, and we were getting her ready. We're looking for a new house. We want to find somewhere that's a new home. And we took her to the houses, and we were like, what kind of things do you want in your new home? And so we did that, and she got like the kind of like gist that we were like looking for a new house. So she knew we were like planning to move around. And one thing she really wanted was a pool, which is a very big ask for the current market. But yeah, so she made it clear that that's something she would really like, and we were like, we don't know if that's going to happen, but we'll see how we go. Spoiler alert, we managed to get a pool, which is shocking to me because I never thought I'd live in a house with a pool because it's so much work, but my husband and my child insisted, so this is where we're at.
You were voted out.
She was in well, I was just like, well, I'm not looking after it. That's all you, man. Like, you can do the lawns and the pool, and I will make sure that the inside of the house is perfect, because that's just who we are. But anyway, so yeah, she was involved from the start. She knew what we were doing. We weren't concealing the move from her. We weren't just going to spring it on her. We gave her involvement in it, all this kind of stuff. So we kept her up to date with the process too. So eventually she ended up like staying with grandparents and stuff like that when we were doing open homes. But we kept her up to date with the process. We're like, okay, like we have bought a house, like, and that's like, it's an abstract concept that 2-year-old probably doesn't understand, but we're like, we've bought a house. This is what it looks like. This is when we're moving. And we gave her a time frame, and yes, kids really don't have a great grasp of time frame in the toddler years. It takes them until they're like 7 to really understand like the distance between tomorrow versus like next year. Like, they think that tomorrow and next year are really close together, so it's hard to like get her understanding that. But she was just like, sure, whatever, like it's happening later. Like whenever I say we'll do it tomorrow or we'll do it next week, she's like, we'll do it later. Like later to her is just like anything that's not right now, and it's great. It's so cute. Yeah. So yeah, we kept her up to date with the process. And when we bought the house, like I hadn't seen the house until after we bought it, like until after our offer had been accepted. My husband bought it, sent me about like, took a bunch of photos, and I was just like, yeah, let's just do it. Like I was so burnt out at this point. Like this could have been a really bad thing to do. We could have bought a dud of a house, but we got lucky. So yeah, I hadn't seen it. My daughter hadn't seen it. I eventually saw it and was like, yeah, it's okay. Like we'll make it work. But then it was a really long settlement period because banks and Christmas and chaos. So we had a long time to pack. So I kind of used that to my advantage, and I got her to help me. So we started packing away some of her toys that she doesn't use very often. We're like, we're going to take these to the new house. So we packed them in a box, and she'd choose what went in the box. And she'd choose what she wanted to keep out. And I'd be like, all right, these are going to go to the new house. And like, I didn't like tell her that they were going to the new house, but I think she just kind of thought like, they're no longer in my vision. They were in the garage in boxes. She must have just thought that they were at the new house. And that's what she said to me. I was like, yeah, they're going to be at the new house. Because I can't lie to my kid. So I danced around that as much as I could.
Well, close enough.
Exactly, right? So yeah, she was involved in the packing, and she got to choose the toys she wanted to keep out. And we did this for a while, and we talked about it often, and she saw lots of photos of the new house. So when we took lots of photos, we were like, this is the kitchen, this is our pool. There were no surprises in this because like I hate surprises, and I don't want to inflict that on my child. Like fun surprises are like finding little presents on your bed. Not fun surprises are moving to a new house and not knowing there was a large body of water at said new house. So we showed her a lot of photos. We talked about it all the time. And we were like, okay, which room do you want? And like a family had lived at this house beforehand. So there were different colored walls. There was a green room, a pink room, and a blue room. And I was like, okay, which room do you want? She's like, pink room. Like, this is the one I want. And she carried that with her this entire moving process. And when she was giving tours of the new house with our like family members and stuff, she'd like be like, come look, pink room, my pink room. Like it was so adorable because she just kind of associated like that room was hers. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know how normal people
And then you turned around and said, nice try, it's my pink room.
No, she got the pink room. Sometimes I assert my will, but a lot of the time she wins.
I'm joking, of course.
I know.
Picking your battles. Right.
Yeah. Interestingly, the main bedroom did not have a colour, and I was like, okay, these people are just all about kids' colours and not their own colours, but that is okay. Like, we're not color people, so it's very strange to have color on the wall.
I know. You're a monochrome beige if you're feeling fancy kind of lady.
Exactly. We've talked about this before. Anyways, so lots of photos of the house. We'd sit down and look at them like sporadically, like every now and then, because it was such a long settlement period. And then we all picked up the keys together. So like as the time was like ramping up, we're going to like the new house soon. We're moving new house next week. We're moving to the new house this week. And then we took her to pick up the keys. Because we wanted that kind of ceremony of like, we're going to get the keys to our new house. And like she could like associate like going to grab keys from somewhere and then going to our new house. And like, I don't know how much of this helps, but keeping her involved in this entire process gives her that sense of like involvement and autonomy and all that kind of stuff. So she grabbed the keys with us and then we went to our empty new house. And we played in it and she jumped in the pool and all this kind of stuff. So we gave her a chance too, and she loved being in this empty house. She like immediately was like sprinting around it, like running races, like doing laps of the whole house. She was just stoked. And I was like, where's your room? Which one's going to be your room? Like, where do you want to put your toys? Where's your playroom? And she just got to like map out everything in this empty house. And she was so hyped by the end of that. She didn't want to go home. We were like, okay, we've got to go home now and have dinner and go to bed. And she's like, no, this is my home now. I was like,
oh. You're like,
almost.
I see your logic.
Yes, almost. We've got to get your bed here though, and that's happening in a couple of days. So yeah, it was like at that point we're like, okay, this move's going to be smooth because she doesn't want to go back to the old house. Nice. Yes. So when moving day came, she was not in our care. She was being cared for elsewhere because that is so hectic,
kids underfoot.
So chaotic.
Hell no.
Yeah, like just like we barely like we had to lock the dog outside so that he wasn't underfoot because like he would have gotten squished. Like it's just no one. I don't want to be there for moving day. Like nobody wants to be there. So
and it's dangerous with big boxes and heavy furniture moving about.
Yeah, but she knew that day was moving day. She knew what was happening because we told her. We were like, okay, today we're moving everything out of this house and moving it to our new house. Remember our new house? Like this is where we're moving everything to. So that when you come home from kindy today, you're going to come home to the new house, not to this house. But we'll say goodbye to this house later in the weekend. So she was told that she could still say goodbye to this house. It wasn't like it was going to be gone forever. And she was going home to the new house, which she was really excited about because like I was like, we can go have a swim in the pool, we can do all of these things after kindy, like whatever.
Yeah, make it exciting.
And then super exciting. And we prioritized, as you said in your post, we prioritized setting up her room and setting up her playroom so that all her toys were out and it felt like home to her. Like I had all her play mats out. I also prioritized setting up the living room and the dining room before the kitchen or the bathrooms or anything else, or like the office, because those are the two areas that we spend a lot of time in and those are really familiar to her. So we wanted somewhere where we could eat meals that was familiar because we wanted to keep a routine that she's really familiar with so that nothing else was like out of whack. So
different,
so we set up those things first as well. And for the most part, everything was set up by the time she came home because we hired removalists for the move. We don't like moving on our own because it will damage our bodies and our mental health. So we outsource things like that when we are financially able to. And we also actually got a bomb cleaner for the new house before we moved in so that it was a nice fresh slate and I didn't have to be like trying to clean things as they were coming in. Even though like our stuff was like super dusty and dirty, but you know, at least it's our dust and dirt. You know?
Exactly. The house was...
Exactly. So we did all of that to make sure that we were also pretty prepared for this move because like if we're strung out, we're not going to be able to handle our kid very well when they get strung out. So someone has to be calm throughout all of this. Otherwise, everyone kind of just festers together and it just ends up being a big explosion. So yeah, we did all these things to keep ourselves calm, even though we have a toxic perfectionism trait. But anyways.
But you're learning to manage these things.
We really are. So when I set up her room, I had a new colouring book new pens, and a new storybook on her bed, because I wanted her to have something like that was associated with the new house, like that she was excited to play with. I mean, she's super excited for the new house, but at least then she's got an activity. As soon as she comes home, she's like, these are new, I want to play with this. So she's not just like standing there overwhelmed by the whole thing. Like it's almost like a distraction, but like it kind of helps her like figure out, like, I've got my pens, I've got my book, where's my little table so I can go color?
Yeah.
And she goes
way
and
to
finds
focus her energy.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's a book there for like bedtime tonight. So it's a new book, so it's something to like focus on rather than trying to go to sleep in a brand new house that is a brand new room and overwhelming.
It looks different.
Yeah, gives her something else to focus her brain on, being a new story rather than a new room. So we did all of that, and she was stoked when she came home from kindy. Like, she was just like, oh my God, like, I have new pens. Look at my new pens. Like, look, it's a Bluey book. It's a Bluey. And she was so excited. So we did that. And then that was the end of the first day. She went to sleep real easy at like 7 o'clock, which is when she usually goes to sleep. I feed her to sleep. I'm not changing that anytime soon. That's just, it's too good.
The research shows you shouldn't change that right now. So good job.
Yeah. So yeah, she went to sleep just fine. She woke up at like 4 o'clock that morning, which is when but it's when she normally wakes up.
That's mental to me.
Yeah, it's when she doesn't wake up for good. That's when she wakes up and then needs to be put back to sleep briefly.
Gotcha. Okay, I thought you meant like starts the day at 4. Ew.
No, that's me. I start the day at 4 because I have a problem.
Ew. No, we're just different. The idea of staying up until 11 makes you sad. So whereas that's my ideal. No,
I was asleep by 8:30 that night, like, and every night since.
Mind you, moving house, that's a lot.
No, I'm normally in bed by 8 o'clock. We are homebodies.
Different.
We are very different people, and that is okay.
You're a morning person, and I can respect that.
So, yeah, she wakes up at 4, and usually because we've been night weaning, and it's a process. Like, night weaning doesn't mean that your kid will suddenly start sleeping through the night. Like, for us, it meant that she doesn't wake up as much, but she still wakes up at 4 o'clock, and usually my husband goes in to put her back to sleep, and it's usually a bit of a fight. Because she wants me and she wants my nibbles. And, you know, nope, we're not doing that anymore. And she still resists it some months later. But because we just moved in the house, I wanted to be lenient. Like, I was like, you know what? Like, I'm tired, you're tired, Dad's tired. I'm just going to come and feed you back to sleep so we can all get a little bit more rest. Lo and behold, I did not sleep any longer than that, but whatever. So night weaning is on the back burner at the moment. Even last night she woke up at like midnight and I just fed her back to sleep and stayed in the bed with her.
These things aren't linear.
No, they don't have to be linear either. We get to pick and choose how we manage new situations, and regressions are really normal with new situations as well. So I was like, you know what? I don't even want to fight it. Like, I'm really tired, so I don't want to try and read you 16 stories to put you back to sleep in the middle of the night. So that's what I did. And then the next day, like, my husband had to go back to our house because it's an investment property now. So he had to go clean it up and like patch walls and paint walls and things like that. So I had Sienna with me, and we were unpacking the house together, and there was a lot of screen time and there was a lot of sugar. We wanted to get the house unpacked, and, you know, she wanted to unpack everything too, and she helped for a little bit and then she got bored. And so, yeah, I was just like, here's Cocomelon, here's Bluey, here's Blippi, like, here's a ring pop, here's a lollipop, here's all kinds of sweets and things. It'll be okay. And so I gave her all those things.
Do what you gotta do.
You really do. And it's okay, because it's not like this is the permanent, like, this is not the way that things always are. This is just a blip on the radar and everything will go back to normal. So yeah, we did a lot of that. And then we took her to the old house in the afternoon to say goodbye. So we told her, okay, we're going home. We're going to the old house. We're going to meet Dad there. And we're going to go say goodbye. We're going to go for one last walk around the neighborhood. We're going to go look through the house and what it looks like now that it's empty. We're going to go say goodbye. That'll be the last time we're there. And she was like super chuffed. She's like, yeah, let's go see Dad. And yeah, so we did that. She was like, bye, house. Like, no attachment whatsoever. Like, I feel like we had more attachment, but, you know, it's kind of in line with the research.
We spent longer there.
We did. Not that much, though. I was only there for 3 years and she is 2.5. So, you know. So anyways, we did that. And that was kind of it. Like, the other things we did was, like, we oriented her towards the fun things about the new house, the new location. The week before we moved, like, on the weekend, we went and, like, scoped out all the parks around the area and all the playgrounds, and we went and played on those, and we drove past the new house, and we're like, this is our new neighborhood. This is where we're going to play, things like that. We didn't, like, we're not toilet training in any kind of forceful way. So toilet training wasn't a big thing for us. She goes to the potty when she needs to, like, and she's not super consistent with it, and we're not consistent either. Like, she does use the potty at the new house though. Like, she's just like, oh, I need to wee, and, like, we'll run off, and, like, the potty's in the toilet, and she'll just run off and go and use it. We are not in control of the potty training at all. She is. And yeah, I think... the other thing that she was doing was changing rooms at kindy. They were meant to coincide. She was meant to be moving rooms today. And we were like, can we postpone that a couple of weeks so that she's not getting major moves at once? Turns out we didn't have anything to worry about because she ended up moving rooms a couple of weeks ago because they sent her up for a play and she refused to go back to her old room after being in the new room. So
Little Miss knows what she wants.
Jesus, yes. She's very, very in charge of the entire situation, and her kindy teachers know that too. So yeah, anyways, that's everything we did. That's how the move went. It was super smooth, super, like, awesome. Easy. Shockingly so. She's very happy in her new house, and who knows if any of these things that we did actually worked, or whether she was just always going to love a new house with a pool in it. Like, we could say that do all these things and your child will have a seamless transition into their new house. But you know what? Every child is different. Every experience is different. You can't do all of these things. Like, and don't feel bad if you can't do all of these things. Like, you might be moving interstate or internationally, like our friend Frankie, who just moved 2 toddlers.
Where's he going?
To Germany.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's so exciting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, you got a job at Max Planck. Yeah, at the Max Planck.
Did he?
With our other friend, Carrie.
For those who don't know, the Max Planck Institute is really prestigious. The positions there are amazing, like, really very, like, beyond good research comes out of that institute. It's hard to get positions, and 2 of our friends have got, mind you, we have fancy friends. We have friends
We have really fancy friends.
Yale, and, like, Princeton, and Oxford, and it's not
everywhere.
Us.
No, we're not fancy.
We don't go to these fancy places. But we have podcasts. Do they have podcasts? I don't think so.
I mean, I think one of them used to, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah. But now anyways, we've got the podcast. So
now we've got a podcast.
I think shoulder tapping for us. Yeah. So Oxford,
honestly,
podcast. You be the judge.
Anyways,
so that's amazing. Germany. Yeah, there's some things you can't control if you're moving to Germany. And that's okay.
Like, you're going to have to change furniture. You're going to have to change the daycare. You're going to have to change language. Those kids already speak a lot of languages. Like, it's just another one in their belt now.
Amazing.
God, overachievers. Yeah, there's a lot of things. If you're changing countries, just be braced for a shitstorm, because it's going to be a shitstorm, and that is okay, because 1, you're getting on a plane with a very small child, and that is not fun. 2, you're doing it in the middle of a pandemic, and, like, whoa, I would be panicking. So, it's not, just be braced for not a fun time, but know that it is just a short period of time and everything will be okay.
Yeah.
Eventually.
And that transition, these things, like, we have to live our lives, and children are adaptable and resilient, and we all find a way.
Children are super resilient. There's actually a series called Life at, like, 1, 3, 5, 7, and it's all on the Australian Growing Up in Australia study, and, like, there's, like, an episode, I think it's Life at 5. There's an episode of this series. I'm pretty sure you can find them on YouTube or something. If you just Google, like, Life at 5, Growing Up in Australia, it should come up. I'll try and link it in the episode notes.
Yeah.
And there's a portion of it that's all about, it is, isn't it? It's all about resilience. And they do this really adorable like experiment where they give the kids like 2 options for what present they want. It's like something desirable and something not desirable, like a wooden spoon and a teddy bear. And then they're like, okay, and they take the toys away, and then they like bring back a wrapped up box, and the kids like, it looks like it's the size of the thing that they wanted, and they open it and they test to see how the kids react when they see that it's the thing they didn't want. And it's so cute what some kids do. Like some kids look so grateful for it. Some kids are like, oh, I didn't want that. I wanted the teddy bear. Like, it's so amazing to watch that episode. But yeah, there's a whole thing on resilience and how like different life circumstances have affected different children and how their resilience looks. So yeah, that's really fun. Anyways,
it's a great episode. I remember that because that was being filmed, I think when I was in undergrad. And it's actually pretty similar to, I don't know if you've watched the series 7 Up.
Yes.
Which is...
This is the British version.
The British version that was, I think it was started in the 50s or 60s.
It's so cool. They're up to like 64, like maybe more. Maybe they're up to, what's 7 plus 64? 73 up? I don't know, 63 up?
So I think so. Yeah. I remember watching the 64 one a while ago. So they met these kids and filmed them and did interviews with them when they were 7 in primary school in Britain, and have followed, not all of them, some of them have decided not to continue. Every 7 years they meet with them. So again at 14 and then 21 and then now, 70 something. It's fascinating. It's really fascinating. And I'm pretty sure those are on YouTube as well.
And my favorite part about it is that you see like the kids from the upper class and the kids from the lower class of the UK. They've got all the different class types in there. And then you see how those kids turned out in adulthood. And a lot of it is not how you'd expect. Like the lower class kid, I can't remember his name. He was such a ruffian, like super naughty, like super rebellious, like from like the lowest of low classes. And he just has this... Yeah, he has this beautiful life with a holiday home somewhere in Spain with like his big family, and it's just like, what? Like, it's like the best way to like...
cabbie? He turned out
maybe?
To be I think he drove the black cabs. Yeah.
But he's just like... Yeah, it's so awesome. Good to like contextualize how like different children can have the same life experience or different life experiences and end up in the same place or different places. And it's like, it's just the best thing I ever taught, because we used to do 7 Up in my developmental psychology courses, and then we switched it to Life at 5 because we're an Australian institution. So Aussie seems more relevant, but yeah, it's super cool and I love it.
Do you know, I've got a perfect example of, so at the moment I'm turning some of my backpacks into online courses, just because they're a bit easier to, I'm adding more information for one, because there's more stuff I want to add, and what am I up to? An 85-page document's probably a bit much. So instead, I know. So I'm presenting it as a like mini lecture, but as in I talk you through everything. So that hopefully will be available soon. But the best thing that I've found, so it's all about breastfeeding, this one that I'm working on at the moment. But I talk a lot about formula feeding and combination feeding and different types of feeding. And I found this amazing meme, basically, and it's like a slide that is at the top. So there's a kid on, it's a forked slide. So one kid on one side, and then the slide meets in the middle. And it's like breastfed, formula fed, and that they both end up eating McDonald's fries off the floor of the car. So it like ties into the point that it kind of doesn't matter too much where you start. Depending on how you experience life, a lot of us end up in the same place, and that's fine.
Yeah, as parents of toddlers, we've all eaten McDonald's fries off the floor there with our toddlers.
Oh yeah.
Can't let those things go to waste. Anyways, that I think wraps us up for today's episode of Moving with Toddlers. Maybe these things will work for you. Maybe they will not. Fingers crossed they do. Let us know if they do. The science says they should, but your child's temperament may disagree with the science. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's alrighty. Cool. And maybe in a year's time, I will have a home to live in of my own, and then I'll share how this goes with my little one.
Fingers crossed.
Whether or not, who knows? I'll let you know, and then we can revisit it.
Yes. All right. Well, thanks for watching today, listening, whatever we're doing. I'm very bad at this, just like you. We will catch you in the next one. See you later.
Have a great week.
Bye.